2021 has come and gone, the first full year of the release of the PlayStation 5. Obviously, it came out in November of 2020, but we've had a full year with the console, and obviously, whenever a new console drops, you want to see an elevation in terms of visual performance, and we definitely saw that. However, 2021 was definitely a year where we got a couple of true PlayStation 5 titles built for the PlayStation 5, and we did also see a lot of upgrades, cross-gen games. You guys get the idea. In this video, I want to take a look at some of the best-looking PlayStation 5 releases of the year. Remember, a lot of these games are cross-generational releases. They are upgrades, so just bear that in mind. Deeper into the generation, you're gonna see games that are released only on the PlayStation 5 and really can accentuate everything, and we did see a couple games that were of that category, but for the most part, a lot of cross-generation titles. So let's just get right into it. I want to start things off with a Plague Tale Innocence. This came out a few years ago, and it got a PlayStation 5 upgrade back in July. It was also a PlayStation Plus freebie, and I loved this game when it initially came out, and thank the Lord, we are going to be seeing a sequel to the game as well. A Plague Tale Requiem will be coming in 2022, and A Plague Tale Innocence was a beautiful game when it initially came out back in 2019, but this version looks even better, and what I really like about A Plague Tale Innocence is this is a game that does an incredible job of absorbing you into the game world, really engrossing you into it, and it's right for a game like this to have a certain visual style, and you have that dark ambiance to the game that really helps with that atmosphere that the game is going for, and I thought from that standpoint the game did a really good job. If you haven't played, go back and check it out. You can get it fairly cheap, and A Plague Tale Requiem is coming in 2022, so great time to check it out. Next up, I do want to give a shout to Bloober Team's The Medium. Now, this is a game that didn't see, gigantic fanfare. It came out on Xbox Series X and PC, and then it ultimately saw a PlayStation 5 release later on in 2021, back in September, and I thought the game was quite good. I know a lot of people did not like the gameplay mechanics of the game, but from a visual standpoint, I thought the game looked quite good, and from a horror game standpoint, I did enjoy it, and I even liked some of the gameplay aspects to it. I thought it was interesting. I thought it was going for something unique. Nevertheless, visually, I think everybody can agree that the game did look really good, and overall, I did enjoy the game as well. Wouldn't say it's a game you should drop $50 on, but if you can get it on the cheap, definitely worthwhile. Next up, another game that's really being forgotten about when people are talking about the 2021 release, and maybe because it's how early this game came out, and that is Hitman 3. Hitman has been kind of interesting over the last 5 to 6 years, with the release of Hitman 2016 being episodic, and then on, the game's not getting a ton of buzz, but the games have been super consistent from a gameplay and of course a visual standpoint. This was a cross-gen release, but on PlayStation 5 it looked really good. Some of the weather effects, the lighting, that looked really, really good, and it stayed true to, the typical Hitman fanfare from a visual standpoint. I enjoyed the game as well, even though it took me a while to actually pick it up from the initial release of the game and play it from start to finish, but overall still a rather good game that you can get really cheap these days. Next up, Metro Exodus got its upgrade on the PlayStation 5 back in June. Metro has been long-standing one of those games that really set the bar from a technical standpoint. You can go back and check out games like Metro 2033 and especially Metro Last Light on PC. Metro Last Light, when it came out, it brought PCs to its knees, and then, yes, it saw a release on the PlayStation 3 as well, but we don't really like to talk about the PS3 release of Last Light. Metro Exodus, on the other hand, while it ran well enough on the PlayStation 4, it really saw the shackles come off on the PS5, and then obviously if you played on PC, it's very good on there as well. But the PlayStation 5 release was fantastic. Again, fantastic lighting. The performance was rather good on PS5 as well. Visually, Metro is always going to be one of the standard bearers from a graphic standpoint, and Metro Exodus was no different, especially with the PlayStation 5 upgrade. Next up, we have Housemarque's Returnal. Now, Returnal was a very, very divisive game. Some people loved it, some people not so much, and more often than not, anecdotally speaking, the people that I talked to did not like Returnal because of a lot of the gameplay elements of the game. I'm a Housemarque nut hugger, so I enjoyed Returnal, but I can see that there were some very fundamental gameplay issues with the title. Visually, it looked very good. It was a true PlayStation 5 exclusive, so obviously, they had a lot of horsepower to work with, and graphically, the game looked good, and it still retained one of the Housemarque fundamentals of having awesome particle effects. If you go back, Housemarque did a lot of downloadable titles, smaller budget games, but one thing that stayed true across all Housemarque games are their particle effects are fantastic, and that really carried over to Returnal. Think what you want about the game, but I think most people will agree that visually, the game did look quite good. Next up, another PlayStation console exclusive here, Kena Bridge of Spirits, also dropped on PC and PlayStation 4. The PlayStation 5 version looks quite good. This was also a budget release, so it didn't come out at a full $60 or $70, but visually it still looked quite good, and most people were pretty happy with the release of the game. At this stage of the game, it's one that didn't get a lot of buzz because it was coming out around the time of a lot of other big games, and this is kind of one that fell to the wayside, but if you can get it, at a discount, and I believe it's on sale right now, Kena Bridge of Spirits is a worthwhile game to go through, and it is definitely a visual delight, if nothing else. I'll call it a biased pick, but I gotta give Tales of Arise some credit. Man, Tales of has been one of the most consistent franchises in not only just JRPGs, but gaming in general. Every Tales of game you can count on to at least be good, and then some of them are great, and then some of them are excellent. Tales of Arise was an excellent game from all regards, but visually it really elevated the Tales of series, because Tales of has been rather the same from a visual standpoint going back to 2008, to be perfectly honest, with Tales of Vesperia. And the games look fine. People weren't going into Tales of to have a visually remarkable experience, but with Tales of Arise, you had a visually fantastic game. The colors and the vibrance of the game, it was just a very, very colorful game. The PlayStation 4 version looked pretty good. The PlayStation 5 version ran really well on top of that. Overall, the game also had a variety of different environments. The water effects look solid as well. Everything about the game looked really good, and the game itself, again, is an excellent title that you can get for like $35 now. And even if you're not a gigantic fan of JRPGs, if you're not the biggest fan of the Tales of franchise in the past, give this one a shot, because I think this is one that can win a lot of people over. Next up, another title that didn't drop to much fanfare, that's Hell Let Loose. This dropped back in October, and it was a PlayStation Plus freebie. It came out on PC a while back, but Hell Let Loose is another game that's only on the PlayStation 5. It's not on the PlayStation 4. It's obviously on Xbox platforms as well, but the game itself definitely was a bit divisive as well, but from a visual standpoint, it's a very, very good-looking first-person shooter. On PC, if you have high-end hardware, you can make it look very, very good as well, but the PlayStation 5 version does a pretty good job. A lot of you guys probably checked it out through PlayStation Plus, so maybe give the game a look. Next up, we have Resident Evil Village, another game that was cross-generation, and it looked great on the PlayStation 4 and the PlayStation 5. You could do ray tracing, had elevated visuals as well, and performance. The game just looks pretty solid. The Resident Evil games have been rather consistent from a visual standpoint. Like Resident Evil 2, the remake looked very good. Resident Evil 3, the remake looked very good. And Resident Evil Village looks quite good as well. It's not really a game I have to sell you on the visuals, but a very, very good-looking game, and best of all, on the PlayStation 5, the performance was solid. I did notice some issues with the ray tracing mode on the PlayStation 5, so, depending on what mode you play, your experience will vary from a performance standpoint, but a visual standpoint, it looks very good. And even the performance, I just wanted a consistent 60 frames per second. The ray tracing mode would dip a little bit, so that was a little bit of a bummer, but overall, the game did look quite good. Next up, we have Ghost of Tsushima, the director's cut. Now, obviously, the release of the game, how they decided to release the game, was something that a lot of people were upset with, myself included. I did a video on it way back when it came out a few months ago, and yeah, Sony's really trying to get your dollars when it comes to these upgrades. They're doing the same thing with Uncharted, but Ghost of Tsushima was already an incredible looking game on the PlayStation 4. The PlayStation 5 version, more than anything, what I was happy about the PlayStation 5 version was its 60 frames per second. Now, you didn't even need the director's cut to go 60 frames per second. You could just have the PS4 game and then pop it into your PS5 and it'll be 60 FPS, but 60 FPS makes the game look so fluid, and then of course this director's cut, the true PS5 upgrade, does look a little bit better on top of that. 60 FPS, in my opinion, is the biggest improvement with this PlayStation 5. If you play it on the PlayStation 5, I should say. You don't even have to have the PS5 version, so to speak, but the director's cut obviously include the Iki Island expansion as well. $70 was a bit much to have a game that's a year old being re-released at that price point, but Ghost of Tsushima, I do think incredibly highly of it, and yeah, it looked good on PlayStation 5. Next up, Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade. This obviously had the expansion as well, but the game itself upgraded for PlayStation 5 looked fantastic. FF7, if you had the game, it was a free upgrade, and now they recently just made the PlayStation Plus version of the game a free upgrade as well. It looks fantastic on PS5, and then 60 frames per second if you want to play it that way. Looks very, very good as well. I've been this generation, I'm gonna be the type of person that always prefers to play games at 60 frames per second, but if you want to play at 30 FPS and still, have great and have even better visuals, higher resolution and things like that, a lot of games are gonna accentuate on that front. So, however you want to play, you can play. But FF7 already looked incredible on the PlayStation 4. It's just even better on the PS5. And again, from a performance standpoint, very nice to have it at 60 FPS. Lastly, Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, no-brainer. In my opinion, the best looking game of 2021 on the PlayStation 5. This game really showcased what the PlayStation 5 could do from a visual standpoint. I mean, some of the transitions from the rifts that you go through, how quickly and seamless it is, and obviously just from a straight visual standpoint, ray tracing performance mode is the best way to play the game by far. You're gonna get your high frame rate, you're gonna get great visuals, just overall a great experience. Obviously a tremendous game. The only qualm with it was a little bit on the short side. It was $70, but from a visual standpoint, a tremendous game aesthetically, and had a variety of ways to play from a graphical standpoint as well. If you wanted to go straight performance, you could do that. If you wanted to go all in on visuals, you could do that, and performance ray tracing, again, in my opinion, and most people agree, was the best way to play the game. But that's going to do it for me. Again, my opinion, and it is quite subjective, especially if you played more games than me this year. And obviously, there are some titles like you could throw in Final Fantasy XIV Endwalker that I didn't mention, but yeah, a lot of good-looking games in 2021. That's going to do it for me. Sound off with all of your thoughts in the comment section down below. Thank you for watching, and goodbye. Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and if you're already subscribed, do us a favor and hit the bell icon. This way you'll be notified whenever we post a new video. That's the best way to keep up with all of our uploads, and we usually try to upload 2 videos a day. And with the bell icon hit, you'll be notified whenever we do upload a video. As always, thanks for watching.